Hey everyone, welcome to InterviewPro. In the last two videos, we learned what are polyfills in JavaScript and how to create polyfill for map and filter functions. In this video, let's talk about creating polyfill for reduce function. So I have an example here, which is an array containing 10 values, 1 to 10. And I am using reduce function on this array to find the sum of all these elements in this array. So how do we apply reduce? We call array dot reduce, and this reduce function will take two parameters. The first parameter is a callback function that is applied on all these elements, and the second parameter is the initial value. So reduce function will make use of an accumulator. This second parameter, which is initial value, is nothing but the initial value for the accumulator. So we want the sum, right, for all these elements. So we want the initial value of sum to be 0. Now coming to this callback will accept four parameters. First, it's the accumulator. Second argument is the current item in the iteration. And third is the index, and fourth is the array itself. So how it works is reduce function will go through each and every item in this array on which this reduce function is called, and in every iteration first accumulator will be 0. In every iteration accumulator will be updated with this logic, accumulator plus current. For example, let's say we are in the first iteration where we have the current value as 1. So initially accumulator was 0, adding current it would update accumulator as 1. For the next iteration where the current element is 2, the accumulator will be 1 and the current is 2, the sum would be 3. And for the third item, the sum would be 3 plus 3, 6. So it continues till the end. Let's see what the output of these numbers would be. So sum of 1 to 10 is 55. Now let's try to create a polyfill. Before that, let's make a note of the observations that we had so far. So reduce function takes a callback and initial value of the accumulator as arguments. Then the callback has four parameters: accumulator, current, index, and array. Now this reduce function will return the accumulated value and it iterates through each and every item in the array. Keeping all these points in mind, let's create a polyfill. So I'll create a function. This function will take callback and okay, let me update the spelling here. Callback and the initial value of the accumulator, which I'm calling it as init. So this initial value should be assigned to accumulator, right? So let's create a variable. Let accumulator equals init. Now, what is the other point? It iterates through each and every item in the array. So let's create a loop here. Let I equal 0, I less than array dot length, right? Because we have to loop through each and every item until the end of this array. So how do we get array inside this function? Using the this keyword. So this keyword will have reference to the array that is calling this reduce function or whatever polyfill we are going to create. So this dot length, and then update the increment the loop counter. We'll do some process here. We'll update the accumulator and finally we'll return the accumulator. So return accumulator, because this is what we observed, right? It would finally return the accumulated value. Now in every iteration we have to update the accumulator, right? So accumulator will be assigned with some value, and how do we get that value? That value will come from the callback. So this callback should be called in every iteration. What are the arguments for this callback? The first one is the accumulator. So ACC. Then we have current value. How do we get the current value? This of I. So if you are confused with this, just create another variable which says array and then assign it to this keyword. Instead of this, you can now use array. So current item will be array of I. Then comes the index, which is represented by I, and then the array itself. So array. This would update the accumulator value in every iteration, and finally we are returning this accumulator. Now let's try to update this code, but before updating this code with our polyfill, we need to make this polyfill available so that we can access it on every array, right? How can we do that? By adding it to the prototype of array object. So array dot prototype dot, give it your name, whatever name you want to give. I'll use my reduce. Now let's move this below the prototype and update reduce with my reduce. Let's run the code. So the answer is 55. Not just some of the elements in the array, you can also find the product. When we find the product, the initial value would be 1, otherwise we'll get 0. So this is the product of all these numbers. So this is how you create a polyfill for reduce function. I hope the concept is clear. If you like the content, please like, share and subscribe to InterviewPro. Thank you.